Sorry, what was that question?
Why do you think that we should be forced to sustain a pregnancy?
I think force there is a pretty
You were
liberal
about to say president. Yeah.
claim there.
It's
Like,
not
I
liberal.
really don't think that's. I
If you're
really don't
sitting
think that
here,
there's a
hold on.
force.
If you're sitting at forced pregnancy is telling a woman that she's not allowed to get a termination and she has to she has to sustain a pregnancy. That is literally what a forced pregnancy is. So why do you think that women should not be why do you think that women should be forced to sustain a pregnancy? I'm sorry if you don't like the definition of forced pregnancy.
I'm not yelling at you. Like I'm not trying to be
I'm
a
not
big
yelling at you
opposition
either.
there. I think that if myself and a lady, if we are intimate together, and that intimacy creates another person, I think that we should probably deal with that situation
Yeah,
appropriately.
personhood is subjective.
Sorry.
Personhood is
I,
subjective.
I get that. We don't need to get into all the all the mud with
Yeah,
that.
I'm just correcting you because you said a person. It's a personhood is
Fair enough.
subjective.
Exactly. Like I don't want to get into the mud and all that. I believe that if we create that other being, let's say, I believe we should be responsible for it.
Yeah, I think getting an abortion is responsible.
I don't,
Why?
because I think that there's another individual there to deal with.
Yeah, okay, and this other individual, or the pregnancy is infringing on my bodily integrity. So I have a
Sorry,
right to remove it and/or unalive it.
I'm not trying to slip here, but your mic was going in and out for me, anyways.
I said, I said, yeah, and
That's way
this
better.
other individual is infringing on my bodily integrity, so I have a right to remove it and/or unalive it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that argument. I do, and it is a compelling one. However, they also didn't choose to be there,
It
but
doesn't matter.
the person and I did, and so the
You give
consequence of
the
our
hold
action
on.
was
But
that.
you hold on. So if you give the you're an abolitionist, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, so what do you run? Like
I
what
don't
do
even
you
really know. Like I don't really
do you
know what
give
that.
do you okay, do you give the essay exception?
Uh, I've never really thought about that too deeply.
Okay.
I think I would. I think I would.
Okay.
I think I would.
Because
Yeah.
because if you're
I
gonna
think I would just leave it up to the woman at that point.
because if you were to sit here and say that oh, if you consent to sex, you consent to pregnancy, and you decided to do this action knowing that it was an outcome, and then turn around and say that people who are raped are also not allowed to get an abortion, that would be a contradiction.
I hear you, but I think there's nuance there, right? Like, so is it like when we say the termination happens immediately? Do we say it happens later? Like, I don't know.
I mean, if we're
I think
talking
there's a
about
distinction there,
it,
right?
it depends. It depends on what you're talking about. So, my stance is I'm pro-choice all 9 months, but once viability hits, I advocate for non-lethal means of abortion. I don't advocate for lethal means of abortion late term unless it's medically necessary,
I don't really understand that. What do you mean non-lethal?
like an induction or a C-section.
Oh, so like there would be an adoption, basically.
Put into adoption. No, that's not what a C-section means. So,
No, no, no. But sorry, just I'm clarifying. Like the person wants to give up their child.
no, if they medically need a C-section or if they
Oh, of
medically
course,
need
yeah.
an induction, yeah, that's what I advocate for. So, in late term of pregnancy, I advocate for non-lethal means of abortion, such as inductions or C-sections. I don't advocate for lethal means of abortion late term unless
Yeah,
it's
we
medically
agree.
necessary.
I think we agree.
Okay, but do you think abortion should be banned?
Um, Again, a lot of nuance, right? I think that if there's, yeah, I like,
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
I would rather it doesn't happen, but I
Right.
understand the exceptions.
Right. Okay. Let me ask you this. When do you think abortion should be cut off? When do you think women should not be able to get an abortion?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think like somewhere probably between 8 and 12 weeks.
8 and 12 weeks?
Yeah.
What happens in those 8 to 12 weeks that a woman is not able to get an abortion?
There is enough. So like there's like a rule, I think in Florida, that's 6 weeks. But I mean, for like my kid's mom and I, like we didn't know even 6 weeks in, you know, with our kids. Um, I think I think there is some merit to that. I would rather it doesn't happen at all, but my personal and like moral kind of foundation doesn't really jive with what should be politically correct.
Yeah, do you
Does
think
that
it
make
should
sense?
be? Yeah, do you think it should be banned
Like politically or morally?
politically, like legally?
Yeah, politically, no, I don't think it should be.
Oh, okay, then I don't have a problem with that, dude.
Yes.
If you're morally pro-life, but you're medically, yeah, or not medically, if you're morally pro-life, but you're legally pro-choice, I can't argue with that, my guy. Like
Yeah, I mean, sort of, but not like you know what I mean. Like it's there. I think there has to be like a broad, like a very like, because you know, like I feel like what's happening right now is that we're we're almost like encouraging terminations, and
we're
it's
not.
feeling like
Hold
That's
on,
not
really
what.
quickly. Oh, I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we're not. That's not what pro-choice is about. In no way am
I
I.
agree.
Yeah, hold on, Scooter. In no way am I going to sit up here and say, oh my God, go get an abortion. It's the most amazing thing in the world. No, fuck no. Abortion is super traumatic. It can be very well traumatic and super harmful to an individual. What I advocate for is the choice to go and get one. You should be able to choose whether or not you want to carry out your pregnancy or you want to terminate your pregnancy. I don't promote it. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, you're pregnant? Go get an abortion."
Exactly.
That's not
Okay,
what
but
I'm
hold
doing.
on
Feel
with
like an
that too.
addiction and be like, oh my god, here.
Right, right.
Like
No, but
what?
okay, so here's where maybe. So I don't think like as far as being forced, I have a problem with the force thing because it feels like it's men against women a lot of times too, and it's like men are trying to control women's bodies, and I have a problem with that because it's like it creates a rift between men and women. Men and women are fine. Like we love each other and
Yeah.
we support each other, okay? But it creates this conflict saying that men are trying to control women. But then I say like, okay, but what are we actually saying here? Because if if the pushback is correct and we're saying men and women are equal, and I believe that in many different ways, and I also don't in other ways. But if we're saying men and women are equal, then it's like, well, if we're equal and if we have equal power, especially judicially, like then ladies, rise up, take a stand, take agency, and make a law pass. Don't blame
That's
men
what we're.
for it.
Hold on. I'm not. Okay. 1 second, Scooter.
Sorry.
I'm not blaming men for it. I'm not.
Okay.
I no way am I doing this. So please do not apply this to me or the panel.
Fair.
I
I
don't
wasn't.
blame. I know you aren't, but I'm saying if you're gonna mention it, like don't apply this to like the panel or me. I don't blame men for it. No way am I going to say, oh my God, this is all men's fucking fault. Da, 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 da. No, that's not what the fuck I'm going to say. I actually advocate for a lot of things when it comes to like bodily integrity and things like that and bodily autonomy. One, I obviously like rape and stuff like that. I think that men and women have the right to self-defense when it comes to rape and hard
Absolutely.
assault and etc. I also believe that if women have access to abortions, that men should be able to sign over their rights and not pay child support. Another thing I believe in is I don't think that men should be forced to go to the draft. I don't fucking believe in that. I don't agree with the draft at fucking all. I think that men should be able to choose what the fuck they want to do and if they go to war and what to do with their fucking body. Even when it
Yeah,
comes to
yeah, like
vasectomies. I
I
do
agree
not
with you,
fucking
but
agree with
I
it.
don't like I want men to be responsible for their actions. So like if I'm intimate with a woman and she's pregnant, I should have to be responsible for that. Now
Wait.
it gets touchy because
It
how
gets
do we
very touchy
really
because you're basically saying that if a woman gets also essayed in those terms, she gets pregnant, she doesn't get a choice at the end of the day, but he has to pay for his consequences.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I like we can get into the mud on that after. I'm just saying like consensual adults they get into that situation. I don't think a man should just be able to walk away from that. I understand the argument and I get that it's valid. I'm just saying if we do that, then now we're just promoting more more kids going going by the
But
wayside
do you think
basically.
I
literally
don't think it's
everybody's a good
necessarily
person?
I don't think it's necessarily promoting more people to become like single
Uh,
fathers or single
Yeah.
mothers or promoting
May
like
I suggest something?
positivity. Because first of all, 50 like not 51. around 60% of abortions, women are either married and or in committed relationships, right? So like I don't think it's promoting like promiscuity, like people going around and sleeping around with whoever the fuck they want. Not even to mention even with like protections and stuff like that. 51% of abortions are from failed contraceptives. This would include like birth control and or condoms. So like I don't think it's like promoting any type of like promiscuity or people to become like single mothers or single fathers or anything like that.
I mean, may I suggest just like
And
when we talk
also, I
about
don't
like
think
the man
everybody
being able
wants to
to divorce
become.
himself from the pregnancy?
You said what? Can you
I
repeat that?
me.
Yes, you.
Yeah, so like when the idea was like a man can divorce himself basically from the pregnancy, I understand that argument and I appreciate it. I'm against it, but then there's a hang up for my argument and the argument against me. And the problem is how do we force paternity on the man? So I agree that it should be able to happen, but I don't know how we do it. So
Well,
like
I
let's say
mean, like,
let's just say like Leah, you and I were intimate. You're pregnant, and you're like, okay, I want to have the child, and I'm like, oh, I want out. But how like or you want to have it,
like,
and
are you
I
saying like who?
like
How
who
do you?
decides on
Wait,
the
wait,
child
wait. So are you
support?
basically trying to say that you should also have a say if she gets pregnant to keep the baby or not because it's
Well,
both of your guys' DNA?
so like not really. I'm saying like the argument is that men can divorce themselves from the responsibilities of the child if women can have the ability to decide what they want to do with the child. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so Scooter, I don't know if this is answering your question,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna try this. So I don't think men get a choice in abortion. I think that two people can come together and sit down and have a conversation and say, this is what I'm open to and this is what I'm not open to. But ultimately, it's up to the mother and what she chooses to do with her body.
Right.
With that being
Right.
said, if the father is going to be upset over the fact that his a wife, girlfriend, whatever, is getting an abortion, then he should leave her and or go find somebody that is willing to have his children because she does not owe him a gestational service, meaning a pregnancy.
No, and like what I was responding to was it was brought up that if women can make that decision, the argument against would be that men then should be able to basically dissolve themselves from responsibility for that child. Am I crazy there? I thought that's what somebody said.
Yeah, I said that I think if women have the right to get an abortion, men should be able to have the right to sign over the right to not pay child support.
Right. Okay. And that's what I was responding to. I'm saying I understand that argument. I don't like it because I think it just gives men an opportunity to get out of their actions.
Well,
And I
men
think
do
men
that
just need to be
anyways.
men and step up and take care of their responsibilities. The unfortunate part about this is, and what people have talked about is there should be for every child born a paternity test to prove paternity with the father. Now, I agree with that, but how do we do that? How do we force these men to go in and get these tests? It's like a violation of rights and all these things. Now, if we can find a way around that and make it logical and reasonable, I think we
Well,
should do that.
to get a paternity test in general, you have to have consent between both parties. It's not just like the father consenting, it's also the mother consenting. So if she chooses not to get a paternity test, then she doesn't have to. I think that paternity test should be done if there's any type of proof that she's had multiple sexual activities with multiple people. But if it's like been proven that she's only has sexual activity with one person, no, I don't think it should be forced onto that
Well,
father,
so
especially if he doesn't want to take
I
it.
agree. I agree. Like, and that's where it gets ugly, right? Because women know who their they know it's their child. Men don't. Now, I'm not saying that like that they have to question that all the time,
But what I
but I am
read that,
saying
like, yeah,
that this
but
comes up a lot. So, and
what
men,
about what race that?
a lot of men, like they advocate this responsibility and leave women being single mothers when they shouldn't have to be that way. They should be getting support, and so this creates a huge issue and actually promotes more AVs happening when there's probably a lot of mothers out there that probably would have went forward.
That's not even true. Abortion bans is what promotes women to have more abortions. If you look at if you look at the differences,
That's a separate argument. I'm I'm just saying a lot of women have to end up going, like they make that choice because the guy's acting like a deadbeat, saying they're not going to support them.
That's not true. Majority of abortions
I'm not
happen
talking
because
about. I'm not talking about majority. I'm just saying even like a percentage.
Like a small percentage, but we're talking about the most like outcome.
Well, not really.
What do you mean?
Why?
Not really.
We can talk about just reducing it because it's not going to just stop.
oh, if you're gonna make this claim, Scooter, then you would have to provide a source saying that women who don't get paternity tests or fathers who won't accept paternity tests, that would result in more abortions.
Well,
And there's
hold
not
on.
a source for that.
Are you saying that deadbeat dads who say I'm not going to support you don't increase the likelihood of abortions happening?
Unless
Like
you have a source to prove that, yeah.
I need a source to prove
Okay, but a
that?
deadbeat.
Yeah,
Wait,
if you're
I
making
don't even
that
think we're
claim,
arguing.
What
if
is,
you're,
do you know
if
what,
you're
Scooter?
making that claim, you have to prove that this
What?
is an actual
Scooter,
thing.
do you know even what a deadbeat dad means? It means a dad that basically left you. That is a
So
deadbeat
okay,
dad. That's what a
if
deadbeat
I
dad
make
is.
a woman,
It can only happen
if I make a
after
woman
the
pregnant
pregnancy.
and I say I'm not going to support her, and that's going to make her life harder, she might not be more
Yeah, but I
inclined
feel like
to
that
go get
woman
an
already
abortion.
knows. That woman already would know that if that man already is not supporting her that much, like it's
How
already
would she know
clear.
that?
Yes,
A
because
lot of
a
men.
man.
Holy cow! I can't
Holy
even
cow!
believe we're arguing
Yes,
about
because you're
this.
talking about small percentage of like people and abortions. You're not talking about the most majority of what's
Okay,
actually going
fair
on in the
enough.
world.
I actually had my baby daddy sperm donor sign away his rights.
That's fair. I'm not saying this happens in every case or the majority. I'm saying that this would be a good thing to help it. And it actually goes with Leah's argument about men being able to divorce
But what if
themselves
not
from the
everybody wants that?
pregnancy.
What if not everybody wants that though? What if not everybody wants to be like, oh
Hold
yeah,
on, Scooter,
Well, that
that's
goes
my
with the whole crux of this argument.
hold on, Scooter, that's my point though. Is if you're making a claim that this would actually help it, you would have to have proof that this would actually help it. I can't just take like a trust me bro fucking university.
yeah.
Like you would have to prove with statistic and research and data that this would actually help the abortion statistics.
And somewhere if it would have happened, like
I
another
cannot
country or
believe
something like that.
that you're fighting against me saying that men need to be more accountable for pregnancies.
Listen. When abortions became illegal
This is
in
wild.
I'm not fighting
other
against it.
countries,
I hold on. I'm not fighting against it. I'm saying that if you're going to make a claim, you have to prove that that claim is true.
Leah, are you saying I need to bring up some sort of university study to say that if more men were involved
Scooter,
with
I
the
bring you a
pregnancies
study.
they cause,
Scooter,
it's
I'll
going
bring
to
you a
cause
study.
less abortions?
Yeah, I am.
You need that.
I'll bring you a few. Like, listen, I come from another
Are
country.
you guys serious
right?
right now?
Can you just listen to me?
Like we can't even have a conversation if that's the stance.
And Leah, I have that source for you, and it's probably the same source you used, but it proves what I was saying about the 2 weeks before.
Okay, can you pull it up, please?
I've got it up on there. I
Yes.
just the big screen.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay.
If you're
Come
willing to
into
show me.
focus. Come into focus. Why aren't you focusing? I don't know why it's not focusing.
Yeah, I'll take you off the big screen until it does.
Are you going to try to show me a source to say that men being involved or not involved doesn't matter
No,
in the amount of pregnancies?
Scooter,
Yeah, Scooter, whether a man is involved or not, the abortion rates are not going to fucking change.
yeah,
Okay.
sure. Also, Scooter, when abortions became illegal in other
Hey,
countries,
you guys,
let me
that is
finish.
the end of the
Let
argument.
me finish.
Thank you very much. I'm
When-
out.
Hold on. Okay,
That
yeah,
is-
then
So
you can hop off the
irrational.
live. Then you can hop off the live. That's fine. When abortion was legal, there was less abortions happening. When abortion turned illegal, there was more abortions happening.
Exactly,
What
and
the
they were
fuck
more
does this have to
dangerous.
do? What the fuck?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was
What the
gonna
fuck
go
does
off
this
that
have to do with
point.
being fathers present or not? This doesn't have to do with fathers being present or not. This doesn't change anything. You act like this is like a brand new thing. There has been fathers disappearing and leaving their children's lives for years and decades now, yet abortions still happen. Like,
Yeah,
the
that's a
fuck do you
different
mean?
problem. That's completely
That's
different.
like a completely different problem for what the abortion topic is. That's just ridiculous.
And like I don't get it. Like literally in other countries, and there's rates, like actual statistics
Right.
when afterwards where it made illegal, how many women actually started dying from getting
Unaliving.
pregnant. Like,
You have
and
to
we're
say
gonna,
unaliving.
I think that might be better now.
but
Decades, maybe for hundreds of years. I agree, Brick. I'm just like, I didn't want to go and like, whatever. But yeah, no, like hundreds, thousands, and decades of like years of men
this is a
raising their
different
children
topic.
and being quote unquote Debbie dad, like, or quote unquote unalive dads. Like, this is not a new concept. Like, women were still having abortions even if they were single mothers. Like, what the fuck?
Leah, I think it might be better now.
I think it's like acting up because like on my screen it just shows like you have like the green screen. It doesn't show
Same thing with
the
me.
actual
It's not
source.
showing it. Ugh. Okay, I think it's probably the same article. Was your article highlighted on the second paragraph or so? If you look in the paragraph above, the one that was highlighted explains there are 2 ways to start the count. And it talks about the gestational period and the other, if you look at the
Yeah,
article.
I think so.
I think it's probably the same article that you were using.
Yeah. But Chaplain, you're gonna be my last guest of the night because I'm sick and it is fucking 4 a.m. and I'm tired.
I feel honored, and thank you for having me up here. And just it's been very fascinating for me as a male, just kind of observing and listening to this whole conversation and stuff like that. So thank you for just giving me a time to just be up here and speak with you ladies. So thank you.
Of course. So are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I guess after hearing your explanation of your background here, I would say that I align with what you stand for. Just like
Okay.
I'm pro-choice for like just at a point, the woman has the right to have this choice. Like that's the option that we as a society, especially in America, I accept is like this is what women's rights movement have accomplished. Like so this is like an issue as a chaplain, especially that I don't take lightheartedly. And I just thought it was beautiful the way that you said, but after 9 months, you're pro-life. Exceptions don't exist. And so in that sense, I call myself, I'm pro-life choices. So I just try to promote and try to find like a pro-life choice answer for like a solution to this topic. And I feel personally from a political spectrum that the only way that we as a society, as a country, can really truly like lower this number realistically is to address all the other symptoms that are influencing like the choice for women to like see this as like this is like if we fix like the job pay wage gap and even crime, even gun laws and stuff like that. There's so many other things that we as a society should be addressing. I'm so against like the gun advocates who claim like
Can you say pew pew? For
pew
some
pew.
reason,
I'm sorry.
TikTok doesn't like the G word.
I apologize. But like for me, just listening to Christians just say, "I'm pro-life. Abortion is, can I say that abortion is
You
murder?"
can say no. You have to
Okay,
say you can say
schmurder.
homicide. You can say homicide, or you can say schmurder.
Really? That's acceptable? That's amazing.
Yeah, I know it's
Either way,
really
you know
weird.
what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I
Like
know
the
what you're
people who
talking about.
chant that, and then
Yeah.
and then I find out like this is like a foundation from their Christian belief is what they tell me, and I'm just like, so let me ask you, like, is using the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, like calling that self-defense not the same thing as calling abortion this? And they just they'll tell me, well, that's our God-given right to be able to do this. I'm like, do you not see the irony in
So,
your hill there? Does that
so
make
like
sense?
me personally, I do believe in pew pew restrictions, and things like that. Like I think that it should go into super depth of like restrictions when it comes to pew pews. Like I don't think that there should be war weapons for example, to be given to people and things like that. There's no reason why a person should own a fucking AR-15. I'm sorry. There's absolutely no fucking reason for that. But if you want to own like some type of like,
I agree.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, like some type of pistol or handgun or or hand pew pew and things like that, then by all means, fucking do that. Have that for protection and think for yourself. But even then, I think that restrictions should go as far as going to a psychologist, going through a therapist, going to doctors, and making sure that you're mentally well enough to own this and healthy enough to own this
I
type
think
of weapon.
another issue is also a lot of kids are getting like access, specifically in the U.S.
Right, and even the introduction of 3D printers and like ghost pew pews. This is an issue that's not even being like addressed. That's like coming up, and it's going to end up biting us in the butt. That I foresee. I'm 43 years old, and you know, petty mama. No offense to you, but I feel like you ladies are just a very nice mixture of like different generations and stuff like that. So a good representation of this side. And like I said, when I am having like a discussion or listening to the story of someone who is a mother who decided to, have this procedure done, and now she's dealing with the aftermath of it. Lee, I believe you said like, there's so many different psychological things that go on for these mothers who have this procedure that calling them, like murderers or something like that isn't helping. So when I was listening to Scooter just saying, look, I'm saying like if we try to make men more accountable, like I feel like that's a solution. Like I just feel like the way he was approaching, like pitching the solution was where everything kind of got misconnected and stuff like that. But I see where he's coming from. But that's a thing that is a factor after like the pregnancy, after this life has been born. That's when we start dealing with like, okay, now fathers need to play this role. But essentially, as a man myself, and I found myself in this situation where I've had I was just in the heat of the moment, and and there's times where after it was over, I found myself in my mind just like, oh my gosh, am I prepared? Like if she did end up becoming pregnant, and like this is just a real life situation where I ask myself unless you've been in it, you can't understand like just the complexity of like
Right. Yeah, no, I feel like a lot of people forget that it depends on like person to person 100%. Because, yeah, sure, one person could have an abortion and they can have like extreme trauma to it because maybe they were forced into getting an abortion and they have like a lot of trauma to it. Whereas somebody who got this abortion and it relieved them of some type of like mental turmoil or anything like that, it may have been the best decision of their life and it could have affected them greatly. It just depends on like person to person. Me personally, I was raped last year and I got pregnant from it. I made an abortion appointment. I was supposed to travel all the way to Colorado to be an abortion. About a week before my abortion appointment, I had a miscarriage. And me personally, I didn't have any feelings towards my miscarriage, which a lot of people like to come at me and say like, oh, you're really like, excuse my language, but like you're really fucking heartless for like saying you don't care about your miscarriage or anything like that.
Sure.
It's not that I didn't care about my miscarriage. It was more so the fact that I didn't really have any feelings or like connections tied to it because of my situation and how my situation went down.
right. And it was almost like a relief, right? Would that be a better way? Like
Yeah, like it was more.
You didn't choose it.
Right.
It all depends on like person to person, and I feel like a lot of pro-lifers have this idea that women are just going out and getting abortions and being like, ha ha ha, oh my god, this is so fun.
And that's the thing. Yeah, I'm like thinking like, is this what we deem like women are doing? I'm just like thinking it's like a social experiment just to kind of see how people really think about like these gender roles or even like race. When that guy Triangle came up, it was just like, I hope your baby comes out black. I was just like, what the heck was that? And then he comes back and his argument is just like, well, I'm Arab or Muslim, and I'm just like, bro, you know, like as a man, I'm just like, did you not have a father who taught you how to be a polite, like man? And like, you know, like this is the thing where I
Or
go back
not
to the
even like,
father and I'm just like,
or not even like okay, so to me personally, knowledge and having knowledge about things is a privilege. It is not like not every single person is knowledgeable about certain topics, even when it comes to racism or the LGBTQ community or abortion or just any topic in general. Not everybody has some knowledge about that. But to come up and on my platform and say like, oh, I hope your baby is black, and insinuating that is a bad thing is crazy to me. I could understand if you were uneducated, but to come back up and say that you were just like, I can understand if you were just ignorant and uneducated.
right,
But
I
to
can
come back
forgive
on the
ignorance,
platform,
but you know, you worked very hard to become stupid is like the mentality. I'm like
right,
thinking of
like,
these
to
people.
come up, right, like to come up onto my platform, to come back up onto my platform and say like, oh, I was just assuming, shows that you have that intelligence and you're not ignorant to it. You were just being disrespectful in the fact that you were just assuming,
Well,
which
I
is
mean, more for
that's
me when he came back up the second time, it was more an indicator of okay, here's a sense of his maturity level, which is just at an adolescent stage, if I would perceive it, because I define, you know, like the day that a child the day that a child realizes that all adults are imperfect is when they become adolescents, and the day that the adolescent is able to forgive them is the day that we become adults. You know, like that's a mantra that I just kind of use just to kind of distinguish like a philosophical way, like what it means to be mature and an adult in this day and age. Because everybody thinks like, hey, if you're over 18, yeah, you're an adult. You know, like that's the thing where parents who like say like, hey, anything up until 18 is my responsibility. After that, it's up to them. Like those parents with that kind of mindset, I'm just like, that's it? Like that's a very, you know, like I listen to that because my parents are somebody who like planned for me and stuff like that, and like everything was based around like taking care of me, you know. So like,
oh, really quickly, Chaplain. I read in the comments because I know you're the one that made the I hope your child is black comment. I find it really funny that you're sitting here and saying that you're not begging for attention, but if you're still here, if you're still here solely because somebody is on the panel, one, you are specifically begging for their attention. Number one. Number two, if you weren't begging for attention, you wouldn't still be in my request and you wouldn't still be in my fucking live.
Wow,
Remember
that's
that.
embarrassing.
my father says that it's the empty can that makes the most noise. So
That's crazy. Anyway, sorry. I'm sorry, Chaplain.
no, you're good.
Continue.
Do your thing, Leah. I appreciate that. But I mean, so in your situation, when you said that you were raped, and I'm sorry to hear that. Like when I'm presented with like this situation, would it be wrong of me to start introducing like, well, you know, like if anything, if this happens again, maybe like, do you know about like Plan B? You know, like if you know that you've been raped and that like this is you don't want to have this child, like I believe that the best way maybe to be promoting like and maybe educating the youth on like, look, whatever happens and you don't want to have a baby right after you have this intercourse, there is Plan B that will prevent, at least give you a better chance of preventing any chance of you having to think about Plan A, B, or whatever. Does that make sense?
So, are you talking about like Plan B as in like the pill?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
within
So,
48 hours or something like that, right, is when the
yeah.
window is.
So, I mean, it all depends on like if a woman is able to even access to be able to get a Plan B, because not everybody has like the privilege of like having types of resources
And it's
to
also
Plan B.
very expensive.
I actually looked it up and it was like $50, and it's like almost like it said it was available almost at like every CVS, you know, like in
Yeah, no, it
Walgreens
is, but like not
We don't have a
everyone has.
CVS.
or like
Not every,
Walgreens. I don't have a CVS here too, but you
yeah,
know, like
but not everyone has the access to $50. Me myself, I live in an apartment right now that I pay over $1,000 a month for, on top of groceries and rent and everything. If I wanted to get a Plan B right now, I fucking could not.
Yeah, and imagine if it's a partner and you keep having intercourse, and it's like you keep getting Plan Bs every
Right.
time.
That
Like,
of course. Then yeah, we'd have to like kind of foresee that might be like a problem that may stem down. You know, there are always going to be people who abuse like this system in a way, but we're trying to help everybody. So in that sense, where you tell me like Plan B is too expensive or maybe not available, then maybe what if we started working on laws that offer and make that Plan B and like the pricing more available
It all
to
depends. So,
Okay.
as part of like a
I don't know if
healthcare
you know-
plan. Does that make
I need
sense?
to interject
Yeah.
because Plan B does not work if you're over 150 pounds.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, so chaplain, that's what I was about to get to. It's like on the box itself, it literally tells you that if you're over 150 pounds, or it's actually 155, but if you're over 155 pounds, it's more than likely not going to work. And even then, what Plan B does is stop ovulation. So
Okay.
if you take it while you are ovulating, it is more than likely not going to work also because you're already actively ovulating. So if she's already ovulating and the sperm, goes through and, meets, what the egg and then fertilizes, et cetera, the Plan B is not going to do anything for that. There's a lot of things with Plan B.
If
Also,
it's taken while they're ovulating, right? If that's what you're saying, like that will
if they're
be
taking while they're ovulating, but that's assuming that women know that they're ovulating, right? Because a lot of women have an irregular period,
okay.
so it's extremely hard for them to track like their cycles and their ovulation, etc. But I also want to add on to that even while you're ovulating, it's extremely, even if you were to track it, it's extremely hard to like find out like when you would be pregnant, because just on like my research and like data and things like that, on the day of ovulation, you only have about a 26% chance of getting pregnant, whereas like the day after ovulation, you have like a 1% chance of getting pregnant. So,
And
it's-
forgive me, just to understand that I'm a male here. When you say like at the beginning of your ovulation, this would be like technically the beginning of your period, like cycle, your menstrual cycle, or is that
period. So the ovulation happens about like a few days after or up to a week after your period.
after your menstrual cycle
Yeah.
starts?
Lasts 13 weeks,
Okay.
14 days.
Okay,
On a regular 28-day cycle, it happens 14 days.
14. Okay, so about pretty much 50-50 in a month, right? Okay. And then, Petty Mom, you gave that picture that says the timeline where when it's tracked, it's actually 8 to 10 weeks. Like I found that fascinating. So if I wanted to, like, because I'm as a man again, like I'm under the assumption that when a woman says I missed my period, like that's like the way, like, like of saying like, hey, I'm pregnant type thing. Does that make sense? So it's like when
Right.
when in that cycle where you say that it's not tracked until 2 weeks after the ovulation cycle, like does that mean after the period's been missed or
No. Okay. So we start the countdown for pregnancy for gestational age typically at 2 weeks before ovulation.
can I give you like a real life like if I was a woman who knew that I had a regular cycle like the second week of every month, can we kind of base it?
So really quickly, I wanted to add on to what Petty was saying. Really
Okay.
quickly.
Yeah.
The reasons, like, that's why it gets so complicated with like cycles and pregnancy and stuff, is because symptoms for periods are, and Petty can agree with me on this, symptoms for periods can be almost identical to symptoms for pregnancy.
Okay.
They are almost identical to symptoms of pregnancy.
Yeah.
And not even to mention, there's multiple reasons as why a woman would be late on her period. It's not just pregnancy. This can include your diet. This can include stress. This can include chronic illnesses. This can include if you're on birth control. This can include like if you're taking some type of medication, etc. A woman can have multiple reasons to have a missed period. It's not just pregnancy.
Are there actually documented incidences where or cases where women have like missed a period for like a full month cycle, like they just due to
Well, yeah,
stress or whatever like that?
when I joined the military, I did not have my period for 4 months.
Oh, really?
I
Wow.
struggle with anxiety a lot, and I've like, I don't know, just in general, I have like bipolar and stuff like that. So with me, it's like I also been late like over a month and stuff like that before.
Yeah, Chaplain, when I was on birth control, this is why I stopped taking birth control, because my body rejects birth control and it affects my body really negatively. And because if any woman knows, because I don't really expect men to know, because not a lot of men are educated on this, but
Well, were you on the pill or did you have a
dude, I've been on multiple. I've
Okay.
been on, I've been on the Depo shot. I've been on the birth control pill. I've been on the Nexplanon. I've been on all sorts of them, and they all affected my body really negatively.
I
And so,
hated Nexplanon.
me too. And so I stopped taking birth control all in all because my body had really negative effects to it. And there's also, fun fact, women out there that are allergic to birth control. But really quickly, when I was on birth control, when I was on, specifically speaking on my Nexplanon phase, when I went on Nexplanon, I would go 6 months without having a period. And then when I did have my period, I would be on my period for almost 3 months straight.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's how bad it gets. And also,
So if you had a preference as a lady, would you rather have it every month or do it kind of like that where it's like you get free 6
Every
months?
month. Every
Okay.
month. Oh my God.
Okay.
yeah, because it's also like migraine, like women with migraines and stuff like that. They can't take birth control with estrogen. Like me, I can't take estrogen at all because it's gonna provoke a stroke for me. So because of that, for me, it's either like Neurothordrine, which is Nexplanon and stuff like that,
Okay.
or literally an IUD.
Okay.
Right. And see, like I was saying, I didn't have one for 4 months. Most of us that went through basic training did not have a period because we were doing so much exercise and burning so many calories that in the stress of basic training, we just all stopped.
Oh, you guys all synced up and stopped like that? Like,
Yes.
Okay.
I was just about to mention
That's very
that.
normal.
yeah, I've worked in an office full of women, so I know about the sync up.
Yeah, no, Chaplain, not even to mention which I'm sure you already know this, but all women's bodies are very, very, very different. So one,
Yes, I do know that.
so one birth control may work perfectly for one person and they may have no problems and no complications, whereas for me, taking the Nexplanon, I would go 6 months without my period, but then I would be on my period for 3 months, which as a person who has anemia is not fucking good.
Right. And also,
Wait, what is
when you become
anemia?
pregnant, you can continue
Anemia.
to have spotting at your normal intervals and not realize you're pregnant.
Anemia is not enough red blood cells in your body.
Okay, so it's a okay. I just wanted to make
it can
sure.
be like, yeah, pretty much. So anemia is like not enough red cells in your body, or you don't have like enough iron in your body.
Okay.
I have the iron deficiency problem.
Okay.
So normally, like someone around my age and like my weight, a normal hemoglobin level and a normal iron level is around 13, where mine would get as low as 9. Which would be like you would have to get like a blood transfusion or an iron transfusion.
When it hits
which-
9 or lower?
Yeah, well,
Or you're
there's
like at the
dangerous
threshold
levels.
for
So,
needing a blood.
for my age and weight,
That's
because
critical.
Critical?
Yeah, it
That's
differs.
critical.
Yeah, it differs. It differs from like person to person based on like your age and your weight and stuff.
Sure.
But like for my age and weight, critical where you would need like a blood transfusion or whatever is like 9 or below.
Really?
And so like mine specifically, I would get as low as 9, and I would have to get like blood transfusions and iron transfusions because of how heavy and how long my periods were.
Now, was it something that you inherited from like your mother's side or your father's side or anything like that, or you're just
no,
like
so
an anomaly
fun
in
fact.
your family tree that?
It's not like an anomaly. It's not like an anomaly. So fun fact, a lot of women actually get anemia specifically because of how heavy their periods are. If they have super heavy periods, they're more than likely going to get anemia because of how much, it's going to sound disgusting to you or whoever, so trigger warning.
Thank you.
Warning, 'cause I don't know what-
Earmuffs, everybody.
Yeah, so like people can get anemia from just of how much blood they're passing through their period.
Oh,
And
okay.
and
My
also,
daughter had to go to the hospital, the emergency room this month because of it.
yeah, and you can also develop anemia more likely during pregnancy too, which is because you're losing technically.
Yeah, because the fetus is taking blood from you.
So then, from my understanding of what you ladies told me, is just like if I was a father, which I'm not, but if I had a daughter who was just going through her first, you know, experience, and it ended up being like very heavy or something like that, as a parent, this may be something I should kind of look at as like, I don't know, like I heard like this may be a sign of like iron deficiency. Maybe we should
Yes.
give her some Wonder Kids bread or get it checked out or something like that. You know, like,
So
is
I
that
would say take her if she discloses to you that she's having super heavy periods
sure?
and she's showing symptoms to like iron deficiencies. I would really implore you to not educate yourself, but like look into what iron deficiency symptoms are, because they can consist of like sleepiness, loss of appetite.
Well, I mean, isn't that what like polio was from? Like
Let
an
me
iron
tell
deficiency,
you-
like in.
Let me tell you the numbers, Chaplain, for what is considered too much. 1 pad in an hour is a heavy period. More than 1 pad an hour is too heavy and blood loss.
Okay.
And if it goes more than 1 pad an hour for 7 days, or if it goes, more than 1 pound an hour for 7 days, then they have lost too much, and they need a boost of iron at that point.
Yeah, so Chaplain, like me personally, since I have an iron deficiency, I sometimes take iron pills, but
Supplements, you mean?
major-
Iron supplements and stuff? Okay.
yeah, iron supplements. Sorry,
Okay.
by the way. Iron supplements. I take iron supplements to help with my iron. The only dangerous part of that is if you take too much iron,
Yeah,
that can
of course, that's
also
another
affect
problem.
you.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's about finding that balance that you need, right?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. So then, I mean, that's fast. I mean, you called it a fun fact. So like you said, like I see the problem today, especially on like trying to discuss or debate this issue, is like people, knowledge, you said knowledge is like a privilege or something like that. I look at knowledge like anybody can become knowledgeable on anything that they want to be. The problem is we don't have enough wisdom, because I define wisdom as like the difference between wisdom and knowledge for me is, like I said, anybody can become knowledgeable, but being like having wisdom is knowing when to use that knowledge. Does that make sense? So
okay.
when you told me that fun fact, that's why I just kind of thought like, if I was a father, like how can I use this fact to help me,
Right.
like help my daughter that I would, or just, like I want to be a father more than anything, but
So when I say knowledge is a privilege, I'm necessarily speaking for people who come up here and actually want to learn and actually want to have the privilege to have that knowledge. But if you're just coming up here and just being disrespectful and being like, you're wrong and I'm right and I'm forever gonna be right.
no, I
and you don't
totally
care-
respected how you
like,
handled
Yeah,
that.
you don't care to actually learn and have a productive conversation, then I can't have a conversation with you. So privilege, the knowledge is privilege, because not everybody understands topics and information going on. So that's what I mean by knowledge is privilege.
And I would just kind of maybe step in and just say, for me, it would be more like it's a privilege for me to be allowed up here to share my knowledge and or wisdom, and even hear direct knowledge from you and your wisdom. So that's when I just feel like when you say it's a privilege, like I'm a guest who comes up here, and like I said, it's been an honor just to be able to kind of talk with you ladies. I've actually learned a lot in just this conversation than I had before I came here. I was on a couple other live debates where people were talking about this from a specific stance of, they said women who do this are lazy and selfish, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, that is the worst thing to say.
Right.
Like why do people word or set up the narrative the way that they do to try to do this, is the thing that as a chaplain I'm always just like, why? Why do people do the things that they do? And that's the
Sometimes
thing.
people like to see it one way rather than universal. They don't want to fit into the bigger picture rather than
They're
It's
very
meant to
just
be sort of
self
black and white
narcissistic
rather
in a
than
sense, right? Like
yeah.
so self focused. And I get that, and I hope I don't portray that kind of presence. I hope that if anything I can do, I can just kind of be a better role model for men who might be listening or witnessing. I blame like the men on my hand. So if anything, if you ladies can just accept like my
It's
apology
also
on
just
behalf
about
of all the men that
comprehension.
came up here.
It's
Um,
it's also about comprehension. It's just not just about men. It's just how they also comprehend things. It's just a lot of men can't take it really well when you take a position.
Yeah,
And they like to prove it wrong.
it really depends a lot on like how you portray your stance and how you come up into the conversation. Like if you're immediately coming up here being completely disrespectful, then like what was the point of coming up here? And that's not going to be a productive
right. And that energy
conversation.
is going to be reciprocated back. Like that's why when
Yeah.
people hear, I'm just reciprocating back your energy. I like when people like don't get that. I laugh. Like so when Trin was addressing Red Triangle, and she was just like doing her little impression, and he was like, "What was that?" And she was like, "Oh, that was just me." Being I laughed like hilariously. So, like I said,
He got mad.
yeah,
Like, oh, no.
and I felt bad because Trin was actually my friend, and that's why I was up here on the guest panel. But like I said, it's been an honor, and I don't want to take up. It's been kind of late now, and so
Yeah,
thank
I
you
was
for
just about
allowing
to
me
say I'm
to be
probably
your
about to.
last guest. And I followed all three of you, and
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. And again, I apologize on behalf of men. And just know that at least there's one person out here who's trying to help this side
Yes,
of
thank you. Thank you for coming
mature.
up onto my
Yes, thank you
panel.
very much. Be well, and remain blessed.
Yeah, have a good night.
You as well. Bye.
Thank you for coming up on my panel and being respectful.
Thank you for having me. It was a privilege.
With that being said, I think I'm going to end the live.